What are your thoughts on nature versus nurture? And I suppose that's one question, but also, in that, why, I suppose that maybe there's like medical or those other medical history or different things. But in the question of like, yeah, thoughts, nature, nurture, are there things that you um, feel that you've inherited or that you've grown up in that created who you are? What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, definitely. There's a nurture thing there. I think if I should give it some percentage, I would say it's probably 60-40 or 70-30 or something like that, where the big percentage is nurture and the rest is nature, because I definitely have some things that I have got from my adopted parents. Also, the whole culture, the way I see the world, I see it as a really Danish way. um, and the values, a lot of my values are from them. But there's also a huge gap in like other areas. So I would say, I also think if you want to evolve as a person, you ask yourself some questions. And I remember asking myself some questions regarding my adopted parents. How I had this one question where I said, if my dad was my age, my adopted dad was my age, and I think I was 22 or something like that when I asked the question. If him and I was same age, would I would be friends with him? Would that be a friend
Mm,
in my friend group? And I had to say no. I would. That would not be the values he hold is not someone I would have been in my close friends group with. And that was really eye opening for me, because then I could begin to change the things that I didn't like that I got from my adopted parents. So now I see it as me creating my own values and my own life and all that. But it stems from my adopted parents, definitely,
mm,
the values and all that. But there's also, I think, if you go a bit deeper, there's another. I think you're drawn to things that is nature, like
mm,
how you wanna present, or maybe how you wanna leave the world is a better way. So if you think like 80 years in the future, and you want to say, okay, when I leave this world, what should be my legacy?
mm,
And I think that's where I see a difference from my adopted parents. Is the legacy I want to leave is definitely different than what they have. And I feel like that's a more nature thing. That's
mm,
something deep inside me that is saying that. I don't know if
mm.
any of that makes sense, but
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And
okay.
do you, yeah, I suppose it's at a deeper level, isn't it? And is
Mhm.
it, do you know what legacy you want to leave?
I'm not quite sure yet. I couldn't say like 100%, but I know I wanna leave this place better than when I got here. That's
Mm,
one of my goal. In which way, I'm not sure, but I think, yeah, I think we have a responsibility to do something that just makes it better for everyone,
yeah, yeah,
whatever that might be.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting that, yeah, that you draw that future focus or that legacy to like the origins, perhaps like your origin story.
Yeah,
Yeah, mm,
maybe
yeah,
that could be, because I've I've also thought about. I don't have any children, but if I should have, would I create myself or would I adopt? Because I've been adopted, so I know what you have to go through, and there's a lot of different ways that people that are adopted can go through life and how they see life. But I've had the question for a long time. That's like, is it a good thing or is it a ego thing? Because when I look at myself, as if I had to grow up in an orphanage, when you turn 18, you would just leave. You just put on the street, and you have to fight for yourself, right? So I think that definitely I got another and way better opportunity to create a life for myself than if I grew up in the orphanage. So that's good, but it comes from a place from the parent that is we want a child, and then the system goes into whatever the system does, and it's like ordering some kind of food. I want this from this area, and then the agency says, okay, well, we're going to search, and then someone pops up and they present you with a challenge. Okay, you're going to have Daniel. Okay, that's fine. So it's like I've battled a little bit with that because I could have ended up anywhere in the world,
Mm,
so but again, is that a story I want to have about, oh, I could be in some other country with some other
mm,
parents, but
mm,
that's not reality. Reality is I'm here, and that
mm.
was where I ended up, so I want to have to get the best out of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's, it's kind of like those sliding door moments, where, like, I suppose a lot of people, when they're not from an adopted background, their their life is possibly a bit more set. Like, they're born, they're in that family, they go forth.
Mhm.
Whereas so many different options could have happened,
Yeah.
for you. Where you might have stayed in the orphanage until you were 18, or you could have been adopted by a different set of parents, and
Mm.
it gone to a different country, so nothing was really decided. Then, and then your life went in one direction, but it could have gone in many. And it is an interesting thing to think about, because it's quite limitless, really, isn't it, of what could have happened and where you could have um, ended up. Like, you are where you
Yeah.
are, and that is,
Exactly.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really, yeah, that's interesting.